What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Empty Podcast. I'm Anthony Corby, author of the forthcoming book, Empty, and today I will be discussing potential tour stuff that's happening, stuff that will happen after this tour ends, and I will also be, as promised, reading an excerpt from the book itself in wake of the fact that this is the last podcast for Empty. In terms of podcasts, I'm considering doing a podcast in the future as well. I enjoyed making these podcasts. My idea was to make a Tampa Bay Rays or a Philadelphia Union podcast. We'll see how that goes. I hope I can try to find a way to make it sound better and even just get better at talking in general, better than I am now at least, but talking about the Rays is something I know a lot about, so not to say I don't know a lot about my own book, but it's something with more depth, I guess, so it'd be easier to talk about. But anyway, for the final time, administrative nonsense, as my sociology professor likes to call it, the book will be released on December 1st. Follow at Empty by Corby on Instagram for more updates as well. December 1st, like I said, that's a concrete date now. I have listed as my next thing potential tour stuff, so I guess I'll try to talk about that. The tour, there are no confirmed dates. What's most likely going to happen is that the tour will be intermittent throughout the next few months. There are these little book fairs that there's a bookstore in my town that has these little book fairs where all authors come and talk about their books. And I might be doing that instead of just a traditional book signing because I'm obviously not one of the bigger authors out there. So what's most likely going to happen is that there will be one of those events in February. I'm trying to get a few over the course of the next few months before February, or it might even be March. But I'll have to announce these little signing events as we go along. So I think it'll conclude in October with the Collingswood Book Fair, which I do, or I did before. So that will, I guess, be the final date of the tour. Even though I at the start of this, I expected the tour to kind of be like the first few weeks of December, but I think it's just going to have to span out over the course of pretty much a year or 11 months at least. And then after that, the whole hype about Empty will end. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully it'll gain up traction and continue to sell. But that will be the official end of the tour. And again, follow Empty by Corby on Instagram for more updates because that's where I'll be announcing tour stuff. Anyway, I said I'd talk a little bit about the future of, after the book's released and after the tour and stuff, which is now October is when the tour is going to end, which is actually pretty cool because it stretches it out across a longer period, more like when bands release an album and they go on tour and then they write another album after that. That might be what happens. I'm thinking of making a book that's more futuristic. There's one of them that's it's kind of science fiction a little bit, but it's also more about the government taking over. It's very dystopian, and it's kind of based off of another Dream Theater album, The Astonishing, but it's also more about just the government itself completely taking over. But the twist is that there's not more technology than there is now that the government uses to take over. In fact, there's less technology, and that's the reason they take over. So that's kind of, I'm thinking a bit about it now. I don't have like a plot line. That's just kind of an idea. I wrote the first 10 pages of it. But if I were to release any book, another one is just more about the value of life in general. I don't even really remember too much about that one. I think, or that one's also kind of science fiction because that's about a guy that goes into some sort of coma from a disease, and he wakes up years later, and he finds that he's on his deathbed, and then he goes back into this coma because he has this disease, and it's a widespread disease, so he doesn't know which world he would rather live in. But in the life that he lives while he's in his coma, it only really lasts 2 years. Inside of his head, he only ages 2 years, but really in the real world, he's aged about 50 years, and he's an old man now. So he's very negative about his life inside the coma because he's depressed, and he generally just doesn't enjoy life. So when he wakes up for this coma for about a few minutes, he realizes all that he has in his life inside the coma, and that I'm thinking a bit more about that now. But yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm going in, or thinking about going in. They both should be longer books. I've already really begun the futuristic one. Like I said, I've written the first 10 pages of it, but I might put it on hold. I wrote kind of just the idea down on a piece of paper about the one regarding the value of life, but it's going to be kind of hard to come up with something to follow up this book, just because this book's dark and depressing. But either way, the next book I release shouldn't be released until 2021, because I don't want to seem like, I'm releasing too much. So I'm not going to release a book in 2020 unless I have a really good idea and I want to push it, but I don't think that's going to happen again. I do want to continue writing, though. My next step the next thing that I want to do is to start my own business. So that's also going to have an impact on my writing and how long I devote to writing, because I have a good business idea that benefits mainly me, but also other people. I'm not going to tell you my business idea, but it's regarding sports. So yeah, I guess with that being said, I'll read a bit of an excerpt from the book. Now, I'm going to kind of censor this because I include a lot of profanity in this book, but I'll read to you a few quotes that I have in here, or at least the first few pages, and I'll also read the quote that I put on page 1 of the book in the dedication. So the first quote that you see when you open up the book is by John Petrucci from Dream Theater, and this is from Barstool Warrior on Distance Over Time by Dream Theater. And it's, "No one can save you and there's no one to save." And when you read the book, you'll truly understand what that means. The book is dedicated to my parents, my sociology and expository writing professors who taught me about the concepts of gender and defying gender norms, and the 2 others in my college dorm building who are involved in the situation, which gave me the inspiration for writing this book. And as I've said over the podcast, we'll call them D and A. So, chapter 1. I'll only read like 2 pages of this, maybe a page and a half. You know what? I'll actually start from here. I'll start a page later instead of just reading the intro, because the intro doesn't really provide any context. Plus, I can read the first. I'll read the first page and a half without giving up too much. All right. So, come on, get up. My eyes flew open. I saw my wife, Laurel, standing with her hands on her hips, looking angrily at me as I lay in bed. "Let's go." She yanked the comforter off me. "You're going to be late for work." I looked at the clock on the dresser next to me. 6:55. My alarm wasn't supposed to ring for another 5 minutes. "It's not even 7, I croaked. "I don't care," she scoffed. "Get up, get some clothes on, and eat something. I've been up for over half an hour now." Well, whose fault is that? I thought. I wouldn't dare say it out loud. Angering her was the last thing I wanted to do. She stormed out of the room, leaving me alone. I got up, went to my dresser, picked out a nice outfit for work, and made my way down the hall to the upstairs bathroom. I hurriedly showered, knowing she'd flush the toilet if I wasn't out in 5 minutes, quickly put on my clothes, and ran back to the master bedroom. Should I put cologne on? I wondered. I haven't in a while. Plus, I've got a meeting with one of the VPs today. Let's go already. I picked up the cologne, sprayed it twice on my neck, and ran downstairs. Laurel was there at the bottom step, like always. Jesus Christ, you're slow. That's it. I can't believe I got through that whole page and a half without having to avoid a single curse word, but okay. Actually, the next few pages don't have any profanity either, really. But, yeah. With that being said, I'll give some final thoughts real quick. I hope you all enjoy the book when it comes out. I'm having a hard time with Amazon. It might not even arrive for me on December 1st, but it will be available on Amazon December 1st, and this will be the last book I think I publish until I get picked up by a real publishing company, because Amazon is being really difficult with getting the book, and I'm hosting an event, not a book signing, but an event on December 1st to celebrate the release, and it may not even arrive by then, so fun times. I might have to ship out the book to all the people that are coming to the event, which would suck, but hopefully it'll arrive on December 1st. But anyway, the real fun begins now. This is really just a start of a whole sequence of things that I'm going to be doing over the course of the next year and a half. I'm basically just, with the whole idea of this book is not just for fame or for, to get back at the two people that really, I guess, hurt me at the beginning of this year, but it's more just about starting to actually do stuff, because like I said before, I'm thinking of a book about the value of life. That's kind of what I realized from this whole event, was that, what's the point of school? What's the point of doing anything? And it is a very emo thinking ideology, is that what's the point of doing anything if you're bored and if nothing good ever comes out of your life? So I figure the more I do, the better, really. Write a book, start a business. Those are things that I've wanted to do for a while. Those are some fun things I want to do. So I'm hoping that it'll work out. At least it's keeping me entertained, or at least the book has so far. And the business should keep me entertained, and the business will probably be, it'll probably start sometime next month. I mean, I have all of winter break to work on it, so hope things go well. But anyway, that is it for this episode and for the series. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast throughout the past month. Every Wednesday, make sure to purchase a copy on Amazon on December 1st. I really hope you enjoy the book. But for now, I'm Anthony Corby, author of the book Empty, and this has been the Empty Podcast. Take care, everybody.